saying, oh my God, we're going to die. Oh my God, we're going to die. Like, there'll never be an end to this. This is the worst day of my life, and you're just thinking about stuff over and over again. So the fear loop can be 1 second long, or it could be 5 years long, or it could be I have a couple of people in my life who, no matter, and this is going on decades, no matter what you ask them.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Gentleman's SHF Talk with Alex Ramirez. Today, I have a special guest. His name is Tony. How do you pronounce your last?
Blauer.
Blauer. Okay.
Yeah, Blauer.
Pretty easy. Blauer. Okay.
Yeah.
Tony Blauer. I'm very excited to talk to this gentleman about fear, right? Which is something that holds many entrepreneurs back. So very excited to dive deep into this conversation. But before I introduce them to you, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you guys who have been leaving reviews, comments, likes on YouTube, on all the major podcasting platforms. I want to thank you. And if you haven't subscribed to this podcast and to the YouTube channel, please do so that you won't miss when we drop another life-changing episode. And there's very few of you who leave comments, reviews, and comments. Like only 1% of you who listen probably will take the time to do this, but the ones of you who do are the ones who make all the difference. Thanks to you is how this is how we grow. This is how we spread our message. So thank you very much. And now we can go ahead and get started with this. And today I have Tony Blauer, and Coach Tony Blauer has been in the martial arts, self-defense, defensive tactics, and combative industry for over 4 decades. And he founded Blauer Tactical Systems in 1985 and has grown it to be the world's leading consulting company, specializing in the research and development of performance psychology, personal safety, and close quarter tactics and scenario-based training for law enforcement, military, and professional self-defense instructors. So very excited to talk about all of that. And thank you for being here, Tony. Welcome, man.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Probably, for your demographic and your audience, I mean, I think that every person, but particularly men, are drawn to being a protector, to being able to provide and protect. And so the self-defense part of my life's work is probably very interesting, but it's really the shirt I'm wearing, for people that are watching this. If you're only on audio, I'm wearing a shirt that says "No Fear," but it's spelled KNOW, meaning we need to understand fear. We need to get to know fear. We need to lean into our fears. And that's how you grow as a gentleman. That's how you grow as a man. That's how you grow as a woman. I mean, we don't have to be just men. Who knows? You might have both genders listening, hopefully. But I think that's the more important thing, is people understanding the psychology. I only say that because my bio, which my office sent to you, is very heavy on the tactical, and it doesn't really expand much on the emotional psychological side, which I learned from all the tactical training. All the scenario training we did made me realize that the missing link in most of our education is understanding how to manage fear.
Understanding how to manage fear. Yeah, man. So actually, one of the podcasts that I listened, in which you were on, you were wearing another shirt that says "Fuck fear."
Yeah.
right? And I was like, okay, like that was like one of the first things that really caught my attention. And as I kept on listening, I just found everything that you said and you talked about very interesting. So I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But before we do, man, one of the first things that I do with my guests is tell them to describe and walk us through their entrepreneurial journey,
Mhm.
right? In 75 seconds or less.
Go. Wow, I need a timer. So listen, I'm 61 years old and I've been in business. I've been teaching since I'm 17. So there's no way it'll happen in 75 seconds or less, but here goes. I fell in love with martial arts, self-defense, Bruce Lee junkie in my teens in the 70s. My mom asked me, what I'm going to go into, in school, lawyer, doctor, police officer, astronaut. I said, I'm going to be a famous self-defense instructor like Bruce Lee, mom. Fast forward, I'm 61. I've been on the cover of martial art magazines. We've got 40 videos out. I teach all over the world. We've got, online programs. We mostly work with governments, military, and law enforcement. But that 15-year-old kid who had a vision, he made that happen. The road in between, which we can talk and dig more into, I've been betrayed. I lost my business. I've been married twice. I mean, no, the normal, the normal roller coaster of life. Anyone that is an entrepreneur for any amount of time will tell you, it doesn't look like your best Instagram photos. There's a
Mm.
behind the scenes that people don't see.
Cool. Thanks for that. Yeah, pretty insightful, right? In 75 seconds. So man, what did you Tony, what did your mom told you? What did she say when you were like,
When I said that,
what, mom, I'm not trying to be a doctor. I want to be like Bruce Lee. What did she say?
yeah, I was 15. I was sitting on the floor looking at a Bruce Lee magazine, working on my splits. And she literally pat me on the top of my head and said, "Okay, dear, we'll talk about this when you're older." So, it's funny. I've teased her about that many times. Uh, the I incorporated my company in 1985, so that's how long. I started teaching in 77. Then in 1979 professionally. Before that, it was just teaching as part of, I was in school, I was working for my father. It was just, I loved it. And then 1979, 1980 is when I started doing it professionally. And then in 85, I just stopped doing everything, just focused on that. But yeah, she just said, "Okay, dear, we'll talk about this when you're older." And many times she said to me over the years, when I was 40, when I was 50, when I was 60, she goes, "I don't understand what you do and how you do it, but I'm so proud of you." So
Cool.
yeah, she got it.
Nice, man. Cool. So you're 61, man. And I just want to ask, like, this is a selfish question. Like I grew up in an area, an environment in which like at 40 you're done, right? My stepdad, he's still to this day, he's like 45, I guess. But ever since he turned 40, there were like jokes about him, with a bunch of jokes that basically when you're 40 you're like that, you're like done and stuff. And like I don't want to believe it, because now that I'm in a entirely different circle of entrepreneurs at 40, I see how like they're like strong and they're like full of life, right? And so I just want to ask you, man, how do you feel right now at 61?
Um, so my motivational speaker answer is great. The Tony that's abused his body for decades. I got pain every day, pain in my neck, pain in my back. I try to move and work out every day. When I'm doing my stuff, when I'm teaching, I teach in my garage gym 5 days a week to different people all over the world through Zoom. When I'm doing that, I'm great. When I'm engaged, if I'm doing a podcast, I'm fine. But I don't know any combat athlete that doesn't deal with pain. So I've been smashing my body. I know other people that are 60 that look like they're 80. And I know other 60-year-olds that are freaking, still running and doing stuff. So that's a mixed review. My my body, if you look at it, it's like in you can look at a classic car and go, wow, look at this, it's mint. And you go, well, it's got 10,000 miles on it. Nobody drove it. And then you look like an old Ford truck, on a farm. And I think inside I'm like the Ford truck. Parts of me I try to keep polished, like the vintage car. But it's interesting. It never occurred to me that I'd be this old. Not that I thought I was going to die, but when you're young, you're like, look at those old people. And now I'm like, holy shit, I'm one of those old people. But my brain is, I'm still 20. I still tease my kids. I still tease my wife. I still, I'm still that 20-year-old class clown joker. I just got a lot of gray hair and I don't move as fast.
Cool. So one of the things a very wise man that I know says is that, I think he's 40 right now. I think he's 45 or something. I don't really know what his age is, but he says, I'm 45, right? I feel and I act like I'm from 25. I feel like 25. I have fun as if I was like a 10-year-old or 15-year-old,
right?
But I have the wisdom of a 70-year-old. So pretty cool. So man, let's see. So I think so, like fear, right? That's one of the things that I want to like talk about, because like fear is one of the things that holds most entrepreneurs back, man. Right?
Sure.
Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of whatever, right? Like, but like fear is this thing that paralyzes entrepreneurs, that that paralyzes them and stops them from like going and for their dreams and like making things happen and making things a reality. And you have like a book, right, called Making Friends with Fear. So like, what's your take on that?
So just a qualified book, it's more of an ebook and it's only 9 pages. So don't let it intimidate you. But I make the joke that it took me 40 years to write those 9 pages. It's a lifetime of thought in there. And I kept it short because I wanted people to read it and realize that there's a different way to think about fear. As kids, most of us, I'm a different generation, but I can imagine even in yours, and I know it because of the feedback. I still work with parents today and business people and their families and their staff still are, they're like I was, 6 decades ago. You get a fear spike, you get butterflies in your stomach, you start thinking crazy fucking thoughts, like your brain is going, oh my God, and it could be health, finances, it could be, you work at a shitty job, you got an idea, but you're afraid to quit because of the security. But really what you're focusing on is the fear that's influencing the decision you make. So we use an acronym for fear. Acronym is a big fancy word for, the letters spell out another sentence. So FEAR as an acronym is false expectations appearing real. False expectations appearing real. That means I'm visualizing a future event that's paralyzing me in the present. So you need to get married, you need to get divorced, but you're afraid to make a decision. You need to ask for a raise, or you need to ask for a loan, or you need to quit a job, start a new job, but you're hesitating. And so as an entrepreneur, I tell people in our program that the longer you stay in a fear loop, the more time you waste, because fear creates doubt, doubt creates hesitation, hesitation creates procrastination. So if part of your life and your decision-making loop always must go through doubt, hesitation, procrastination, fixation, when I ask a lot of guys, Alex, I'll say, the day you decided that you wanted to work for yourself, like, did you just quit that afternoon and then start your new biz? What'd you do? And everyone laughs. They go, no, it took me like 7 years, or it took me 5 years, or 10 years, or it's usually like, that's how long the procrastination lasted. And people don't understand the subtlety. Like, if you could have the clarity of understanding how to manage that fear, you make those decisions way faster. And when you make them way faster, what you're doing is actually saving time, which is the only resource you can't get back. So the long and short is, I've developed, by studying violence, I realized that only the people who manage their fear manage to fight. I'll say that again because it's kind of heavy. Only the people who manage their fear manage to fight. Doesn't mean you're victorious, but it means you're in the fight. So whether it's a violent fight, a fight for your relationship, a fight for your kids, a fight for your business, you got to give yourself permission to be in the fight. And the easiest way to create like a lucid strategy, a really clear strategy, is to be able to look at what are the realistic fears, not the imagined fears, and then create your battle plan from there. So if this happens, that's okay. We thought about that. We'll do this, and that that's how you should go into any type of negotiation. And I use negotiation like philosophically here.
Mm-hmm.
That the conversation before you do something next is a negotiation, even with yourself. You're lying in bed deciding, should I get up and work out, or should I sleep in and scroll Instagram? Should I get up early and start the day and plan my day, or you know what? Nah. Like, you're negotiating with yourself, and it's a very subtle, different way to look at it. But I peel the onion with everybody. They go, well, that's not fear. I'm not afraid of this. And when you have the conversation and you go like 7 layers deep, invariably someone says, you know what?
It's fear.
I guess I am afraid of that.
Mm. Yeah. So I was actually having a conversation with a guy yesterday. And he was talking about feeling guilty and shame, right? Because he wants to work out. Well, he knows that he should work out, but like every time that he's faced with the decision of going and working out, he chooses the decision of scrolling through Instagram or sedating with himself with watching TV, right? And he has been doing this over and over again. And he knows that he should work out. He wants to work out, but when he's faced with the decision of which one to pick, he picks the other one, right? Like scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through social media, or going and watching TV, instead of working out. And then he feels guilty about himself. He feels shame, but then he repeats the same pattern again. So like with this in mind, would you say like fear is what's making him avoid working out?
Well, in some cases that might just be his, like, the neural patterns in his mind have created like poor choices, poor habits, and that's a program that he's got to break. Is it fear in the truest sense? Well, it may be. I mean, without talking to him, he may, like, I'll give you an example with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't like to work out a certain way. What I discovered years and years later was that she had mild anxiety that was triggered by something that had happened to her when she was very, very young, and she had a tracheotomy and she almost died, and they had to open the airway. And so now anytime she feels like she can't breathe, it gives her like that PTSD flashback. So when we were working out years ago, I'm trying to like push her, go harder, because, to make the greatest changes in your body, you need to push yourself. So I'm like, come on, let's go faster. Let's go harder. And she's resisting and she's resisting. And then finally, I mean, it was, again, like I said, years later, I finally drew it out of her that she was afraid of working out at a certain intensity because she was afraid that she might pass out and relive this operation. So going flashback to the individual you're talking about, there may be something in his past that associates training with pain. And so he's afraid, like maybe he hurt his back, or maybe he's in really bad shape and he was, bullied and mocked by a bunch of kids. Like, there could be something like that, but it could also be something as simple as, you get your brain rewards yourself. It rewards itself like with dopamine hits and other neurochemical releases when it gets certain things. And some of those things aren't good for you. Like, for example, sugar, right? If you got a sweet tooth, man, like that's danger. You can go through a whole pint of ice cream before instead of a teaspoon. So he may be part of his personality design is he has already created these neural patterns of this is safe and this is comfortable to watch Netflix and eat cookies or ice cream,
Yeah.
right? And so now to break that routine is let's extract that. What time do you get up in the morning normally?
I get up at 4 a.m.
4 a.m. So like you're a beast, like as far as that. I like to sleep. I can get up at 4 a.m. to catch a flight. I can get up at 5 a.m. to meet someone for a workout, but I don't set an alarm clock. I wake up, 5, 6, 7, depending on the night before and what's going on. But if I said, okay, Alex, we're going to be accountability partners and I'm going to get up when you get up, for me to go from 7 o'clock to 4 o'clock to match you, that's like I'm moving to New York City and changing my time zone. In other words, my brain needs to adapt incrementally, right? And so this guy, if he's a friend of yours or a client of yours, what he needs to do is, first of all, he should probably read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, understanding how you retrain a habit. But a lot of it is just understanding what your brain does and how it gets rewarded, and then tricky and teasing it. Philosophically, if I said to you, why didn't you go to the gym, man? Like you and I are standing over him like an intervention. Dude, why aren't you at the gym? If he had Googled, how to lose weight, and somebody said, do all of these aerobic exercises and change your diet and get up at 4 a.m. And for somebody who's not already
doing it
on the journey, that's overwhelming. So that's still fear, right? It's still fear. It's an overwhelming, I can't do this. It's much easier to do nothing, right? So it's subtle, but if people invest it'll take you, if you're a fast reader, 12 minutes to read the 9 pages, 9 minutes. If you're slow and you take notes and think, you spend as much time as you want. But learning to think that the fear spike I just got about something is a spiritual guide. It's a message saying, dude, you don't like this. You should look into it a little bit more. And that's what I mean by lean into fear. And it's not easy to do, man. It's not, I always tell people, when I'm working more in depthly with people, I go, so I developed this whole system over decades. I mean, how much fear do you think I have? And people are like, you're like no fear, dude. You're like the fear man. I go, dude, I have fear every single day. I got 3 kids and I worry about them. I worry about corrupt politicians. I worry about the direction the world's going in. I get up and my back goes ding and I go, well, that's a new pain. Was that there yesterday? I worry about that, right? But I can sit there and stay worrying about it, and then I'll stay in bed, or I get up and I start moving and I do some exercises, or I think about what am I worrying about with my son? Oh, he's a fitness coach up in LA. Ah, shit. So, okay, I'll reach out, phone call. How you doing? How's business? Is there anything I can help you with? Right. So by leaning into fear, you have a conversation about it, and what the result of that is, you start getting creative ideas on how to address the problem.
Yeah. So fear will never go away. So that's why you learn how to you have to learn how to manage it, right?
Correct.
And just to go back to the habit thing, I actually read the book, and it goes like this. It goes cue, craving, response, reward. Those are basically the 4, right? So cue, it's like triggers, right? You have triggers that make you act in a certain way. Cue, craving, then you crave. So like, let's say that you're at a bus stop, right? And like being at the bus stop triggers your craving for wanting to smoke a cigarette. Then you respond and you smoke a cigarette, and then you get the reward, which is, I don't know, like the high that smoking a cigarette gives you or whatever, right? So like in order to break it, you just got to reverse, right? Like be aware of the trigger and like don't go near the trigger. Cue, that's the cue. And then the craving is like, the reason you crave it is because you make it attractive. So make it unattractive, like find the way to make it unattractive. And the response, so if it's easy to do, make it hard to do. So like make it hard to not work out. Like literally put your clothes like right out of your room and your shoes and just prepare everything. And then so yeah, you basically reverse everything. So I just wanted to like for some
Yeah, and
reason
I'll
throw
give
that in.
you, I'm sure a lot of your listeners know who the late great Muhammad Ali
Mm-hmm.
was. And Ali used to hate road work. He used to hate running. And so back in the day when he would train, of course, they didn't have like smartphones and Bluetooth. So he had like a traditional, like, one of those like radio alarm clocks you see like in a older hotel. You got to hit the buttons on top. And what he used to do is he would put his running shoes on top of his alarm clock. So he couldn't shut his alarm clock off when
Without
the
getting his
alarm would go
shoes.
off. Yeah, without touching his shoe. And then when he would touch his shoe, so the alarm would go off at 4:35 in the morning whenever he's getting up. And you're in bed doing this. He would touch his shoe, and he knew that touching his shoe would remind him he needed to do road work if he wanted to be the world champ. And he figured that out, and that's reverse engineering that. So just piggybacking on what you said for your listeners, that you got to know what you want, and then you want to create some sort of carrot, some sort of system that triggers the visual reward you want or the physical reward.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And I like how you frame fear being this like spiritual guide, this message. Actually, that's how I use all my emotions. So like the past 3 years, I think I'm pretty emotionally literate. I actually use my emotions not as a way to handicap me, but as something that can empower me, right? Like as something that is like a signal that is signaling something that I have to learn, a lesson that must be learned. So I really like that, man. And the other day I heard this. I don't know if it was a quote. I don't know where I heard it from, but it goes something like this. It goes like, what the thing that gives fear power is time. So like right now you said that fear leads to doubt leads to hesitation and procrastination. So you can see how time can give fear power, because you're in fear, and like if you give it time, you don't do nothing about it, that'll turn into doubt, right? And then with more doubt, you'll hesitate about doing whatever it is that you're fearful of doing, and then with more time, you just procrastinate and never do it. So like in order to take fear's power away, you gotta like do something, right? Act something. And then I like the other thing that you said. Only the people who manage fear manage to fight, right? Or like in another word, like respond, right? So like if you know how to manage fear, you will be able to respond. You will be able to fight back. If not, then you'll freeze or you'll run, fight. What is the
fight, freeze?
Yeah, fight, flight, freeze. So in order if you want to respond, if you want to fight, right? If you don't know how to manage fear, you're going to freeze, or you're just going to like run away from the problem, which just make it worse. So managing fear, and you talked about like fear loop. So can you dive a little bit deeper into like what a fear loop is?
So I mean, it's a big fancy word for, like if you're like a hamster on a treadmill, you're not getting anywhere. You're just running. So the fear loop is like this loop that you're running. Oh my God, we're gonna die. Oh my God, we're gonna die. Like there'll never be an end to this. This is the worst day of my life. And you're just thinking about stuff over and over again. So the fear loop can be 1 second long, or it could be 5 years long, or it could be I have a couple of people in my life who, no matter, and this is going on decades, no matter what you ask them, they'll always say things are shitty, right? And they're like, oh yeah, no, my kid this, and the taxes are this, and working, it's like, it's just a grind, man. And like that's somebody who is perpetually in the fear loop. I'm looking outside here. Where do you live, Alex?
I live in Arizona.
Okay, so you got weather like I do, right? I live in Southern California, and pretty much like usually gorgeous blue skies. I can go outside and spend a lot of time going, I think I see a cloud over there. Yeah, there's definitely a cloud over there, right? And so you can look for, there's an old I don't know what it is, expression. You can look for the thorn, or you can look for the rose, right? And so, but but that mindset of finding the negative all the time is a fear-based mindset. So that's all. So the fear loop is actually like graphically, like if you look at when you're reading Making Friends with Fear, I think I break it down more and there's actually a graphic in there. But the fear loop, like in our training, actually shows the stages of a stimulus gets introduced. That could be like think about how fear has been weaponized in the last couple of years with the pandemic and everything. Everywhere you look, news. So the stimulus can be something on the news, something on Twitter, something somebody says to you, and then that stimulus starts a movie in your mind. Hey guys, end of the world, everyone's going to die. Oh fuck, did you hear? It's the end of the world, everyone's going to die. And I always tell people, and it's a fun metaphor, you're the producer, you're the director, you're the star of the horror movie in your mind when you're visualizing bad shit. Mm-hmm. And if you come back to at the beginning of the show when I said fear is an acronym, false expectations appearing real, I'm visualizing a future event that's stopping me from doing what I got to do right now. And so that's the fear loop, is when I say to you, Alex, you got to do this. You got to make this phone call. And you go, okay, I'll do it. And I leave you. And then I come back the next day, I go, hey, did you call? And you go, hey man, like I just thought about this. What if they say this? What if they do that? And all of us do that all the time.
Yeah.
Until you get more experience in life. I don't know if you guys can hear how crazy noisy is in the background. There's a truck doing some shit there. It'll be gone in a minute. You may not hear it. It's really loud here. But we all do that as you get. It's called stress inoculation. The more you do something, right? I've been studying violence for 43 years. If you show me a video of a violent confrontation, my brain is already going, and I go, well, you should have. And people look at me and they go like, wow, how do you know that? I go, well, because I've been doing this for 40 years, right? But if you're new to something, you don't have a neural pattern. Your brain doesn't have a mental blueprint for it. So, it's I guess the layperson explanation of a fear loop is just it's like when you put a song on loop on your iPad or your phone, and it's on loop, and you might love it, so you listen to it 3-4 times, but like if you forget to take it off loop, at some point you're going to hate it. And so the dangerous metaphor there is that we can condition ourselves almost like your buddy who chooses Netflix over working out. You've created like a neural link for that, and now you get comfortable with that the negative bias,
even if it makes you feel guilty and shameful of yourself, right?
Yeah. Well, because in some weird way, you get to be the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Right. I told you things suck. Look at this, and you go, dude, you had to dig that up. Yeah, but I'm right. Right. Like if Yeah,
man. So like one of the reasons. So I have this coach. He's like a mindset coach, and he describes fear as something that makes you literally mentally drunk, right? So when there's something that causes fear, when you're fearful, you're literally mentally drunk. So you, in other words, can't think. Right? Like you can't reason. You can't use your CEO brain, your executive brain, right? Like adequately, and you're literally mentally drunk. So, like in a high stress situation, your executive function gets hijacked by fear, right? So, like, can you talk a little bit more about that and how to like manage stress and fear, so that you're able to like think and act appropriately?
Yeah. So there's different issues where there's something in our longer program we call the timeline of violence, and we need to understand when violence actually starts, because that can educate you on how you can remove yourself from it, how you can diffuse it, de-escalate, and if push comes to shove, how do you defend yourself? Now, I start off talking about this timeline of violence because it's important to realize that most of the confrontations we have in life aren't going to be violent. And that changes if you're a police officer, or you live in a part of town where violence is a daily experience. So it's different for each person, but life is filled with confrontations, and how you handle a confrontation determines the quality of that experience, right? So two things I wanted to say about managing fear. One is, when you manage fear, it doesn't mean the fear went away. This is the biggest misunderstanding with every mindset coach, performance coach. There's an assumption that if, let's say you take my course, you read my book, Making Friends with Fear, and you go, I just read it. That was a fun read. And then something happens and you go, oh my God, I'm still afraid of that. Like this book sucked. Tony sucks. No. The biggest misunderstanding is that when you understand how to manage fear, that the fear goes away. There's no reason, for example, if you and I were going to fight, that we shouldn't have fear of the repercussions. Physical fear, legal fear, moral fear. What if something, if it goes all the way, holy shit. But if the fight's going to happen, you still need to manage your fear to be in the fight. Mm-hmm. So if I said to you, for example, and why I brought up the self-defense, if I say to you, Alex, like 5 minutes after we get off the show, some guy's going to walk in and punch you in the face. You'd be like, why? Do you know why? Like what? Like you start thinking about who would want to do that. Why? I'm a nice guy. I'm trying to help guys. Why? I go, I don't know the background, man, but you had 5 minutes to figure shit out as soon as the show's over. Well, now that timeline is 5 minutes. Now let's say, forget that example. You're trying to do a business.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to tell you that this podcast has completely changed my life in ways that you could never imagine, and I would like the same for you. Look, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and the fastest way for you to level yourself up in every area of your life is for you to connect with people who are where you want to be, build relationships with them, and connect with them. The best way for you to do that right now in the digital age is for you to start your own podcast. And I just wanted to let you know that I have a free training that you can get free access to. It's called the 30-day Net Worth Skyrocketing 3-step podcast cloak track framework. And it's going to show you how you can start and automate everything in your podcast, from finding your ideal guest, getting them on an interview with you, and creating an automated content machine in just 30 days. By executing on this free training, you're going to be able to connect with high-level people, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem, in just 30 days with less than 1 to 2 hours per week, so that you can increase your net worth, your authority, your trust, your client acquisition ability, and your opportunity. So there's a special link for this free training in the description of this video. Thank you for watching and tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
Deal to grow your business. You decide you're gonna, let's say, like open up an office and hold seminars, and someone wants, they go, I'll hold this to you, I'll hold this price and this space until next Friday. You got a week to make a decision. Now you've got a week to manage the fear to make the decision. So even though it's signing a lease, if you stop and think, you go, man, can I afford this? This is like X amount a month. Is the company bringing enough money? What if I don't get? The entrepreneur mind, and that's most minds, starts thinking all the negative shit. Mm-hmm. The fear management part is to cultivate the self-awareness that can illuminate that you're playing the horror movie instead of the hero movie, right? So like the expression goes, you got to be the hero in your story. So if your story is, I go, hey man, you should open up this and do that and do that. And you go, that'd be great. And then you sit there and I go, hey, did you ever do that? You go, oh man, it took too much money. And then I would have to give up this. And what if it didn't work out and wasn't a good time? Those are all like watching bad movies, horror movies, where you're the lead character. So the psychology of fear, and I keep going back to that metaphor because it's the one that's most effective for people that don't have like a psychology background, and that doesn't even mean anything. But I could say, well, listen, we got to myelinate the neuron to effectively,
Yeah.
We don't need big fucking words. What you want to do is this. If I say to you, hey, you've been looking at that girl at the bar all night, go ask her to dance. And you go, no, man, like she's way out of my league. Look how she's dressed. Like that's you visualizing rejection, stopping you. And well, what are you afraid? I'm not afraid of nothing, man. Not afraid of her, but she looks like a bitch, right? Like, go ask her to dance. Nah, I don't like her shoes. Like, whatever. These are all, excuses.
Stories.
They're stories you tell yourself. But again, it's like I've read so many books on fear management, and people give like sometimes the example is just way too technical, where you're trying to understand what the brain is doing, and then sometimes they're too goofy or cartoony an example. But what I like to do is just say, listen, do you see yourself being successful or growing when you visualize this next fight? The fight is a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go, well, yeah, I do, but then, and this is my most fun thing, like I'll help people overcome their fear of public speaking. Number one fear in the world, public speaking. and I'm like I'll take them through this journey that shows that they are fully equipped to speak because they're talking to me now. They got a brain, they got words, they can form a sentence.
Yeah.
When you peel their onion, eventually they say, I'm afraid of speaking on stage in front of X amount of people. If you shift that backwards, and this is almost like in James Clear's book of, you want to do 100 push-ups. You don't start off trying to do 100 push-ups. You do one push-up and build your capacity and then do two. So, it's what I try to do is create useful metaphors for people so that they can look at the one push-up in their life for every confrontation and go, oh, I'm going to build a skill set around that. And that requires rethinking what fear is, what the psychology of fear is, and what I'm going to do with it. But understanding the fear loop helps you understand the different triggers that perpetuate the fear loop. And then managing fear, the biggest reframe I can give you is this, that the first 1, 5, 10 times you go through something that is fearful, skydiving, jumping off a cliff, public speaking, whatever it is, you're going to be nervous. That's normal.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal of the program is to use fear as a fuel. And here's 2 things I want to share with your listeners. If we start to think of fear as a fuel, and this is like I'm paraphrasing something Cus D'Amato said, and that was Mike Tyson's original quote. He said, he's got a much longer quote, but he said, look, fire can warm your house and cook your food, but it can also burn your house down and kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about taming the fire. And the metaphor here is, how do you make fear your fuel? Because it's going to be there in your life. Do you have the self-awareness to recognize it and then convert it into a fuel that powers you, that acts as energy for you?
Fear as use fear as fuel.
Yes.
That's the first one. The second one?
Fear as fuel. Second one is that you can't be brave if you're not afraid. This is one of my favorite quotes. And it really resonates with a lot of people. If I asked you or anyone else, if you were faced with a difficult challenge, would you like to rise to the occasion and be courageous? Well, the answer is, well, duh, of course. I go, well, guess what? You can't be brave if you're not afraid. There is no courage without fear. Bravery requires that you're afraid. Otherwise, it wasn't courageous. If I ask you to do something, if I say, hey, Alex, do this really scary thing, and you go, why is that scary? I've been doing that all my life. Oh, man, I hate that shit. No, you just do this, right? Like if you're doing something that I find scary, and it's not scary to you, then you don't need any courage to do it.
Yeah.
So when you think about in your life, oh my God, if this happens, how am I going to handle that? Well, you need courage right now. Well, you can't be brave if you're not afraid. So if you want to self-actualize, which is a big fancy word for become the best version of yourself, you need to face your fears. And it's an interesting reframe and a fun reframe, right? It's like I did this we had about 60 odd people in a seminar I did in Florida last year. And I asked them, male and female, and one of the guys there was a professional firefighter, and he brought his son with him. And he introduced himself with me because he does online self-defense training with me. So he said, hey, I'm so excited to meet you in person, blah, blah, blah. I'm a firefighter. I said, great. I said, I'm going to ask a question to the group after. I don't want you to answer it. He looks at me. I said, got it? And he goes, okay. So like a while later, I'm going, how many of you in this room, remember there's 63 people. I said, how many of you in this room know for a fact that if you saw a building catch on fire and you heard people crying for help, you know for a fact you would run into a burning building to try and save somebody? And like there's like 63 people going, whoa. And then this woman puts her hand up halfway and she says, because we're doing a no fear seminar, she says, I'd like to think with the help of this program that we could manifest that courage to do that. So that's a great answer. That's the correct answer. I said, but the question is, who here knows for a fact they will do it? Like right now. And everyone's like this. And then I turn to the firefighter that nobody knows is a firefighter except me. And I go, oh no, when I said, who here knows for a fact, he puts his hand up. And I turn to the firefighter and I go, you know for a fact that you will? And remember, I'm the only one that knows he's a firefighter. He goes, yeah, I do. I go, well, how can you be so cocky? And he goes, because I'm a firefighter. And everyone like looks, I go, only he knows he will go into that burning building because that's his job. In fact, and I made the joke, he hopes our hotel catches on fire right now so that he can save everybody, right? That's his calling. And everyone kind of had a nervous laugh as they looked around for escape routes. But the idea, Alex, here was this, really interesting, is what I explained to them is because he went through the training and because he's done, like if I said, your first fire, were you happy to run into the building or were you nervous? He said, of course you're nervous. Well, then there's second fire. And then 5 years later, there might be a moment like you go, here we go.
Yeah.
But it's that ritual. But like, that's probably the most important lesson I can give to your listeners is that there are things in life that cause fear and we need to take care of them. It doesn't mean that you won't be afraid while you're doing it. The most important thing is that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's scary.
So like making a call, right? That makes people fearful a lot.
It could be that. Let me interrupt for a second. Apologies. But I remembered my son. I had custody of my son at 3 months old, and which is unheard of. I grew up in Canada, unheard of in Canada. Relationship didn't work out, wasn't married, and I got full custody of my son. And I didn't know this, but I'd put him to bed, and I'd put him to bed, with a bottle with juice, just trying to get him to stop crying. And I fucked up his teeth when he was young. So, how old's your kid?
3.
3. Okay. So you're past that, hopefully. But as he was teething, you're not supposed to put the baby to bed, with a milk bottle in its mouth. It can damage their teeth from the sugar, the natural sugar and stuff. Anyways, like his teeth, I go to the dentist, they go, man, these teeth have to be fixed. And he needs to be put under. It's an operation. But he's like 3 or 4 years old. And that's very dangerous for a 3 or 4-year-old. And I was scared shitless. I felt guilty because I had done it accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
I was horrified and scared. And you got to sign a waiver at the hospital, and they go, listen, usually we wait till a kid's like 5 or 6 before, but he needs this now, and he's only 4. And I was terrified. But he had to have it, or it could have gotten so much worse and really destroyed his life. And what's my point here is that even though I'm Mr. Fear Management, I had to take him to the hospital, and I had to hand him off to a doctor at 4 years old and consider I may not see my son in an hour. Something could go wrong. And so I use a very personal example for all of you, that just because I'm like a fear management expert didn't mean I wasn't shitting my pants.
Mm-hmm.
But I made the choice to be brave. I go, we have to do this. This just gets worse if we don't do this.
Yeah.
So
you were still fearful. A lot of people that fear phone calls, they're still going to be fearful when they, when they take a phone call. But with reps, right? They're like with reps, and by being brave, their courage, which courage is just like acting despite of fear, despite of feeling fear. With reps, your courage will be more than the fear that you feel. So with reps, right? Like doing it over and over again.
We jokingly say you can practice courage, but you got to develop this self-awareness. So practicing courage is, okay, should I run into a burning building, or should I, or should I, I'm afraid of public speaking too. Should I run into a burning building, or should I sign up at a local, like a local social club or Toastmaster, something where I've got to talk every week in a non-competitive, non-stressful environment, other than the stress of just doing it. In other words, like if you're afraid of fighting, if you find a good coach, you can go to a gym and have safe experiences learning how to do it. But you could also, go to a bar where there's a tough man competition and maybe get seriously hurt. In other words, practicing courage is identifying a skill or experience you want to have a better handle on, and then finding the one push-up rep.
Yeah.
To do it, right? It's
and
like,
increase your capacity. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, man, I should run more. Don't sign up for a marathon. Run around the fucking block and go, wow, I just ran around the block. Okay, that's a start.
Now there's the 2 blocks and the 3 blocks and then 4 blocks.
You just start looping that.
Cool, man. So, man, to end every episode, I ask my guest 5 questions.
Yeah. So hang on 1 sec. Sorry, I got somebody out there blowing their lawn. Let me close my garage door because it's really stand by. I don't know if you can hear it on your side, but it's super loud here. I can hardly hear you. It'll be 2 and way better. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, way better. So the first question, man, is what advice would you give your 20-year-old self if you could? So like not changing anything or not going to your past and like redoing stuff. No, just giving your 20-year-old self some advice based on like life and business. So what piece of advice would you give your 20-year-old self if you could?
Super easy, man. It's like, because I didn't figure out the fear stuff until I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, right? And the program just really evolved in the last decade. So from 50 to 60. So I'd have put my arm around this 20-year-old and say, hey, it's okay to be afraid. Just do what you're going to do anyhow, but do it sooner, because I would still be where I am, but I'd have wasted less time. So I'd have more success in different areas, where something that might have taken me a year to do or a month to decide, I'd have done it faster. Because I always associated, Alex, fear with lack of preparedness, fear with lack of skill. Like if I was this good, why would I be scared?
Yeah. But it's not true, right? You can go ahead and still do it. And like that fear is.
Listen, you're a young man. Recently, Rush St. Pierre, one of the greatest fighters in the world, in a bunch of interviews, came out and said the worst day of his life is every day he has to fight.
And he's the greatest fighter.
One of the greatest, George St. Pierre. Mike Tyson used to throw up in his changing room before fights. People didn't know that. He'd cry sometimes.
Damn. Holy shit.
People don't know that. So a lot of times what we see, I make the joke, like the Instagram generation just sees, I wrote this article once called "You're Not Your Best Selfie," right? If you need to take more than one selfie, it's not a selfie, right?
Yeah.
Think about that. So it's like, how do I look? I want everyone to see that I'm having a good day and I'm successful. So your first question is a heavy question, but it would be, it's okay to be afraid. You're going to do this anyhow. Just don't overthink this.
Mm-hmm. Do it as fast as you can. Do it now. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. The second question is around mindset. So like, what is one mindset shift that you've had that you can share with us that that could really collapse time for like any entrepreneur or like anyone, right? So yeah, one mindset shift, man.
They're all connected to fear right now, man. It's like you can't be brave if you're not afraid. And it's and making that connection of like every decision you make that's outside your comfort zone is going to make you inhale. If I say to you exactly that, right? If I say to you, Alex, you're up in 5 minutes, you're going to do this automatically. Okay. Right. Like where you're visualizing, how am I going to perform? What am I going to do? And if you just remind yourself, like, I got this, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to use this fear as fuel. That like, and you'll notice, I don't know what your third question is, that all of the stuff is like a puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you put it when it interconnects, you've got like optimal strength because it's all congruent.
Okay. So you cannot be brave without fear. Would be like the and then to use your fear as fuel. That would be like the mindset shift. Cool.
Yeah.
All righty. So the third question is mindset map. It's around clarity, man. So like you always knew what you wanted to do with your life. Not a lot of people have the privilege to say that, right? Like most people don't know what they want to do with their life. So do you have any takes on that? Any advice for people who may be looking for more clarity on what they want, where they want to go, who they are, and stuff like that?
The biggest thing that I can share is something I heard a very famous motivational author, speaker. His name's oh my God, I just forgot his name. Wayne Dwyer. And he asked, I heard him in this talk ask these 3 questions, and it blew my mind. And anytime I have a chance to share it with people, I do. And it's a perfect answer to your question. Clarity. He asked these 3 questions. He said, if you looked at all the places in the world to live, where would you want to live? And why don't you live there? Question number 1. Question number 2, if you looked at all of the jobs in the world that you could do, anything, astronaut, actor, doctor, sanitational engineer, self-defense coach, whatever it is, you looked at every job, what job would you want to do and why aren't you doing that? So first one is, where would you want to live? What would you want to do? And then the third one, which is mind-blowing, he goes, if you didn't know how old you were and you looked in the mirror, how old would you think you were? Right? And so, it's true. And I try to cultivate a gratitude practice as often as I can. But one of the things you just reminded me of that I don't think about, because it's my obsession, I just always do it. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and write down a new drill, and then, I'm going to try this out tomorrow. So I'm obsessed with studying the self-defense and teaching people and helping people. But I always had that clarity. And I don't think about how in some ways that made my life harder, And in many ways, it made my life easier, right? Because I knew exactly what I was going to do. But whatever, if you haven't found your purpose yet, and hopefully those Wayne Dwyer or Wayne Dyer questions, because I love those. You know, I've been sharing them for decades. If you're doing what you love, living where you love, you're going to look young. that's what I took out of that, right?
Cool.
You know, if I bump into you in 10 years, I guarantee you'll look almost exactly the same, because at a young age,
I found my purpose. I found
purpose
what I wanted to do. Yeah.
And you know, you're helping yourself, you're helping your family, you're helping people around you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, and then if you could live anywhere, ask yourself, where would you live, and why you're not living there? It's probably because of fear, right? Because yeah. Right.
So get this, right? We all know how old I am by now. When I was in my 20s living in Montreal, Canada, so 3,000 miles away up in Canada, I grew up in the 60s and I fell in love with California and movies and palm trees. Came out here when I was 13 with my dad, went to Disney. I was like, oh my God. And as soon as I got off the airplane, I said, oh, I need to live here. I can't believe people live here. And it felt like home to me. I wanted to live there so badly. And then I remember when I was 16, 17, having a big fight with my parents and talking to some friends, let's run away, let's go to California. But we never did, you know. And then in the 80s, I opened up my school, but I was a stuntman as well in fight scenes in movies. And I had stunt doubled one of my childhood heroes, Robert Conrad, who was the original Wild Wild West, you know, very famous actor, badass. And we became friends. He was really into boxing, and he'd go to my gym and train with me. And he says to me, he goes, what do you want to do? I said, man, I'd love to do action movies and fight choreography. He said, well, move to California. I'll give you a job at my production company. So I'm in my 20s, and a famous guy who's got a production company in California says, move here. And I talked myself out of it because of fear.
Yeah, that's crazy, because of a story, right? Of probably not being good enough, or what was the story? Do you know?
It was a fear of what if it didn't work out? It was a fear of like, oh, how am I going to get a green card, and how am I going to do this? But I got a good business here, and where am I going to get money from? And you know, I was engaged at the time. We're getting engaged, and what if she doesn't want to? Like every single thought was a negative expectation. But inside it was just like this adrenaline, a nervous, you know. But here we are. I moved out here when I was 50, and so I make the joke is like on the Wayne Dyer questions. You know, where do you live? I always want to live in California. What do you do? I told my mother when I was 15 I was going to be a famous martial artist, teach self-defense. That's what I do. And I'd like to think when I see pictures of my friends that I went to school with, and they look 75, and I'm like, holy shit, right? I'd like to think you know, it's hard to, you know, I'll look in the mirror and I'll go, oh my God, I'm getting so old. But
in reality, like other people that you grew up with, like
when I look at all the choices, you know, eating properly, doing your best to be a good person, doing your best to be a good provider, doing your best to help your community and the world at large. I'd like to think that I'm aging gracefully.
Cool. That's awesome. So let's see, mindset map motion. So what is one habit, man? One habit that you have that has contributed greatly to, you know, like to your success?
That's a tricky one, because the better habits that I developed were in the last few years, where I wish I discovered intentional breathing, like meditative breathing. And I do that sometimes twice a day, usually before I get out of bed. I'll do 20 minutes of meditation and breathing before I go to bed. And I wish I discovered that way longer. It would have kept me a lot more balanced and centered. But that's not the real answer, because most of my life wasn't doing that. I would say become intimate with the word resilience, that you don't give up. You know, that life is a roller coaster, and it's easy to jump off the roller coaster, you know, when it gets a little scary and a little crazy. And you've got to be resilient if you believe in yourself and you believe in your mission. You know, resilience is a word that popped to mind.
Cool. Never ever give up. Be resilient. I like it. Let's see. The last question: mindset, map, motion, measure. It's about measuring and tracking. Do you have any takes on that? On like measuring and tracking, whether it comes with business or life?
I don't, in the conventional sense. I'm not one of those. You know, I've been in business for friggin' over 30 years now. You know, obviously we have an office that has spreadsheets and this and that, but I've never been. This is not a good answer because I've got friends that are math wizards and measure everything. There's an expression: you can't manage it if you don't measure it.
Yeah.
You know, or if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. You know, whichever way. But I don't. I don't have like my 1 year plan, my 5 year plan, because I'm more of a artist in how I approach my stuff. That, but I say that's not a good business answer, because you know, I have people around me that measure stuff. How many people are in this course? What do we do here? But, you know, that's something you should learn. I wish I had learned that. I wish I had learned that when I was younger, how to track things and measure things. That's important.
Cool. Well, man, we've come to the end of the show, and if people are interested in learning more about you, about what you do, your self-defense stuff, and your book on fear, and your gear and all of that, like, where can they find more of you?
Well, my main website that has like links to everything is blauertrainingsystems.com. Blauer, my last name, Blauer, trainingsystems.com. That's my corporate page. And of course, I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and all that. Just, you know, Google Tony Blauer. And I know my office sent you links. If you can, you know, put that link to the ebook, Making Friends with Fear, in your page notes if you want. But that's available also if, you know, people just go to any one of our websites. You'll see links for that there.
For sure, yeah. We'll put all those links everywhere where this appears, 100%. And man, just as a gift. So like, one of the things that you could do, I think we talked about this, about your environment, right? One of the best things that you could do to have success is surround yourself with successful people, right? And like, changing your environment has been one of the greatest tools for me. And the way that I've been doing it is with my podcast. So right now I'm about to like hit 50 interviews with very like successful men and, you know, wise men and stuff. And the reason for this is to like collapse the time that it will take me to be successful, like to learn what to do and what not to do. And I'm going to also include a special link just for the Tony Blauer episode in the description of wherever this appears, for anyone who wants to start a podcast, right? Interviewing whoever they want to be interviewing, connecting with whoever they want to interview. I'm going to put a training just for this episode that teaches entrepreneurs how to start, grow, launch, monetize, and automate a podcast, a multi-million-dollar network building podcast. That's how I call it, right? Because I've been building my network, and it's going to be special links just for the Tony Blauer episode.
Cool, man.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, do you have anything else to say?
No, it's just fun. You know, it was interesting learning about your story too before the show, and I wish you success and luck with your family and your business. And I think your message and your mission is very important, very valuable in this day and age.
Thank you very much, man. And thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. I enjoyed talking to you, and I'll see you later, man.
Take care. Be safe.
Thank you for watching the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms